let's quickly give you a few news within the box for our East Africa space, because the Nairobi Coffee Exchange, which is the commodity exchange, is looking at prices. There's about 6.9% at the weekly coffee auction. The UK Linkham Group says it has completed the acquisition of Resolution Insurance in Kenya, after we saw Allianz Group from Switzerland making some of the chunk acquisition in the Kenyan insurance sector over the last couple of months. Ethiotel Telecom, which is the national telecommunications company in Ethiopia, reporting full year numbers this week, 18.4% revenue growth to about 56.5 billion barrels. That's the local currency. In the meantime, you got the International Finance Corporation, which is the private sector lending arm of the World Bank, says it's investing $1.2 million in Tanzania's 5-year corporate bond. That's what IFC does across various jurisdictions on the continent, including Nigeria, buying into corporate bond, floating its own bond on various exchanges, deepening the debt capital market. And finally, on the island of Seychelles, you have the Merge Exchange Atlanta portfolio, says paying a dividend of $0.0215 for the second quarter of the year. That is part of that story we're grabbing for you to wrap up the week. But looking at, still talk about investment, since 2021 started, African startups have raised over $800 million. That's as at the end of April. This year, Africa Arena, in a new report, is predicting that venture capital funding in African startups will increase between $2.25 billion and $2.8 billion. Well, that sounds like a pile of cash if you ask me, but now I'm going to ask Segun Cole, who is the co-founder at the Funding Gap Initiative, about who is getting what money and why. Good evening. Segun, it's good to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to have you on the show. It's going to be vehicular traffic. Is a whole lot about today. The rainfall.
It is.
That's quite a whole lot out there.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah. but we're built for it.
But this is Lagos, where I think we love to we get used to some of this. Let's talk about investments coming into your sector, the Africa's tech ecosystem. But the story out there is that as good as these news are, it seems to be skewed against local African founders. What are you finding out in this industry? Tell me.
Yeah, thank you so much. So that's true. There's a lot of capital inflow into the African tech ecosystem. So that's something to be excited about. But what you do see is that a lot of that funding is actually going into non-African led startups. And when you do delve deeper with insights, you see that it's actually because a lot of that funding is actually coming from fund managers that are also non-African. And of course, you know what they say, follow the money. So that's always been an issue. We're having a diversity funding problem. And I think the time is ripe to address these issues, definitely.
So startups with non-African CEOs are able to raise bigger and faster rounds compared to startups with African founders. So what do you think can be done about this?
I think, first of all, we have to follow the money. And I think we have to now increase diversity with regards to fund managers and try to find a mix where you not only have non-black fund managers, but you also have diversity with black managers as well, fund managers, because this black fund managers could also help identify local founders, identify local problems, because they have more access and they have that better technical know-how with regards to local founders. But if we just leave it at non-black fund managers investing, it's always going to go to most likely going to go to non-black founders.
But do you think, Segun, that it has to do with the level of education or where they're educated?
Yes.
Is that what you think the venture capitalist guys and private equity investors are looking at?
Yes, definitely. Okay, so there's a venture builder, Maxine Bayan of BFA Global, and they have this African deal database that captures captures 672 startups operating in Africa. And when you look at the data, like, you know, the data wins the argument. When you look at the data, a lot of that funding is also going into African CEOs that have majority of their schooling outside Africa. It just it helps them because they can easily identify to these founders that have schooled abroad, went to Ivy League schools, or joined accelerators like Y Combinator. So it just makes it easier for them. There is no incentive for them to delve deeper to look for local startups solving local problems.
But are there funds out there that are African funds, that those who are educated on the African continent, who were raised up on the continent, operating on the continent, can actually target? Are there available funds anywhere?
Yes, there are actually available funds. You have, for example, you have CC Hub. They recently launched a syndicate fund. You also have Future Africa syndicates, right? They're coming up, but the challenge has been that they are not really doing much in terms of ticket sizes, because most of them are likely operating in the $500,000 check. But when you're talking about $1 million to $2 million, $2 million to $40 million, $40 million and above, it's more of it's more crowded with non-black fund managers. So that's been the challenge.
Now, so here we come with your organization, which is the Funding Gap Initiative. I love that name, by the way.
Thank you.
That's not promotional before I get slapped with a commercial.
Thank you for the promotion.
But I like the Funding Gap Initiative. So how do we close the funding gap? What are you folks working on to ensure that we raise our own level of funding? You're talking about the size of the fund, the packages. If we're doing 100,000, 200,000, some folks are getting 200, 400, $200 million. That's where we ought to play.
Definitely. So what we're looking at with the Fund Gap initiative is, first of all, we have to have these conversations. We cannot shy away from them. What we say is that there's a lot of talk, but there's no intentional and deliberate steps taken. And for us, we know that the future of African tech ecosystem is shaped by the steps we take, and we have decided to take these steps into actionable talking points by bringing both individuals from the PE, private equity, venture capital, and startups to come together and see how we could develop lasting solutions to this by talking about it. Yeah.
Okay. When are you talking? I like talking, but where are you talking? So, online, a conference, a summit?
Yeah, it's a hybrid summit. It's both physical and virtual, and we're bringing fund managers, private equity, venture capitals, and regulators, and as well founders coming together and solving this issue once and for all. So it's happening on the 2nd of August. Yeah.
Okay. So in just about a couple of days or weeks down the line,
yes.
What do you think this initiative summit would bring to bear in just about a few seconds?
Yes, definitely. We're going to be addressing this diversity problem. And speaking of diversity, it's also brother. It also includes women, because a lot of female founders are also left
we
out.
shouldn't be talking about the women, leaving them out. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
The CEO at the co-founder at the Funding Gap Initiative. That's called Segun. See you next time.